Welcome to episode 204 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me this week is our professionally evil co-host, Kevin Johnson.
I laughed because I don't know what it was about how you said 204, but it was like 200. Oh, and four. And
204, 204. Yeah.
yeah, something. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of dang episodes.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So unfortunately, Scott had a conflict today. So it is just Kevin and myself here to entertain you with this week's news.
and I am sure that all of you need some entertaining after this week.
If you are in cybersecurity this week, this has been a week to remember. Because there was a major vulnerability. Actually, this was announced on Friday because all good things happen on a Friday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, there's no point in doing something until 5:15 on a Friday afternoon. The only way to do it better would have been to do it next Thursday.
They could have timed that better. Yeah, they should do it right on Christmas Eve. That would be perfect.
How dare they not mess up a major holiday?
Yeah, so if you're not aware, there is a major vulnerability called Log4Shell, or it is Log4j or logging for Java. That's what Log4j stands for. There was a pretty serious vulnerability disclosed in Log4j. And maybe we should start by just explaining what is Log4j, maybe what is the vulnerability, and what's the hoopla about this week.
Yeah. So, and I think it's actually kind of funny, some of it, but Log4j, it's just a library that Java applications can use to log things. I mean, it sounds dumb to say it like that, but that is basically what it is. And so it allows a developer, and it's been around forever. I remember when I was at Blue Cross, we were using Log4j for stuff, right? And that was, 15, 16 years ago. But it's to enable the developer to not have to waste time writing their own logging stuff. Mm-hmm. They're able to leverage this, use this, and focus on their business purpose or what they want the application for. So this is something we encourage. As a matter of fact, as cybersecurity people, we hardcore press for people to say, no, use something like Log4j so that your logs are standard, that they're easy to consume, that they're right. That like this is a package, a library that has been part of our recommendations for over a decade, right?
Yeah,
at least. And so the bug, the flaw is that the application, when the application sends a log message, the library takes that and parses it to know how to write out the log correctly. And when combined with a URL handler or something that deals with and makes requests to URLs, it has this flaw. The example that we've seen over and over again as a payload is to use the JNDI call. So JNDI : that triggers the URL handler. It processes the JNDI request correctly, which then leads to remote command or remote code execution. So basically, because the application is logging and it's using a log system that is vulnerable, the application is vulnerable.
And it's interesting to me that this was first discovered through Minecraft.
And I don't know if you read some of the initial tweets and announcements by the person that found it in Minecraft. They seem to, now I don't know, but they seemed to not understand how widespread Log4j was. It seemed like the implication, right? I've not talked to this person. I've not, right? But it seemed that this was oh, hey, man, I was messing around with Minecraft and look what I was able to do. Not a, hey, I used Minecraft to attack this massive infrastructure piece. Which I find it humorous, not laughing at the person, but this is such a typical way of, hey, I found this flaw, but I really don't have any concept or understanding of what it means outside of my context, right? The
Hmm.
person was focused on Minecraft. They used like that. I found interesting. It's one of the things I've always said about security researchers is that so so often, and I'm not making my normal joke, which I believe, but it's that they're so focused on what they see and what they're looking at and what their goal was,
Yeah.
they miss the forest for the trees, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I don't know that, but that's how it was. That was the implication of the announcement, was this was a Minecraft problem.
Right. Yeah. And it's so much bigger than Minecraft, because really any Java application most likely is using this library. And I think it's fascinating, talking to clients and things this week. It's kind of like this is going to be around for a long time because there's all these downstream systems
Yeah,
that you could have a system, say 5 levels deep, that's using log4j, and if you're taking input or something else that's doing some processing, eventually you could put that attack string in. It could go through several different paths
yeah.
to for the exploit to happen. So there's some really interesting things about this one.
I think we're also going to see this around. I was joking around with people saying that this is the Windows XP for Java, but right, because we still
Yeah.
find what heck we found Vista just recently on
Hmm.
a network, but we find Windows XP still in 2021.
Yep.
Right, we are going to be finding this vulnerable version of Log4j in 2031,
Absolutely.
especially since I'm assuming you saw Praetorian's announcement this morning,
Yeah.
that the patched version that was only vulnerable to a denial of service, they've shown full code execution through the updated version. So you actually have to go one more higher
Yeah,
level
they're
than,
recommending now 2.16
yeah,
is the version that is now no longer vulnerable. So
yeah, we
even in
hope.
the patch version, I think it was a little bit harder to exploit,
It
but
was.
still possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it required a non-default setting,
right.
right?
Correct.
Whereas the 1.15, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
2.15
2.15. Yeah.
um, version, they um, that was the default
Right.
setting, right? In its default setting, it was vulnerable to this, and yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of from a recommendation standpoint, if an organization has this installed and they're trying to remediate, I know there's lots of talk of, update your WAF rules to capture this. There's some detection things that you could do. So, in terms of monitoring and things like that, or, changing some of the profile, I think properties as a mitigation
Yeah.
until you can actually update. Updating is the ultimate recommendation, right?
Yes.
Because WAF rules and things like that can be bypassed, and I saw a whole list of bypasses that are already public out there. So, as in the cat and mouse game that we always play when there's a major security vulnerability, ultimately organizations need to get to updating that library to the latest version,
Yeah.
which is
I
not
think
always
one of
easy.
I think one of the things that we've said to our customers, right? Because we keep getting asked by our customers, can you pen test us for this? Can you? And I keep saying to my customers, I could, but it's not worth your money. And
Yeah.
and while, like we've joked all the time, I'm a greedy capitalist. I'd like, while I want to be so
Yeah.
rich, the Occupy movement protests me. I'd like to be rich because I earned it, not because I took money off of ambulance chasing. Right, the pen testing aspect of this, yes, during a pen test we should be checking for this,
Hmm.
but in my opinion, today what you should be doing is, one, talking to your vendors, and please, for
Yes.
for heaven's sake, do not just send them that Word document form that says, please tell us what you're going to do about
Uh,
log4j, because the only answer they're going to give you back is patch. But
right.
talk to them, find out what they're doing, what their plan is. But on your end, you can do very simple scans. Right, like if you're doing Nessus or
Yeah.
10, Rapid 7 or whatever, look for look at the informational findings and look for every place it says it found a Java platform, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Tomcat, WebLogic.
Yep.
I don't even know if WebLogic still exists, but right. Because that's what you want to go look at. Go look at the applications that you're running that are using Java, whether it's a WebSphere server or a Tomcat server or whatever, that haven't been updated in at least 6 months.
Yep.
Because the hope is if they've been updated in the last 6 months, there's a better chance they're going to be at a newer version. If they're older and if they've been updated in 6 months, the developer who did the update probably is thinking about this now. Whereas if the app has been around for 5 years, and I made up that number because I don't remember when the vulnerable version was released, nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's maintaining this,
Nope.
right? So simple Nmap scans will find hosts to go look at, right? It's going to be manual process. You're going to be scanning. Rob Fuller released a really good repository of hashes so that you could search
Yep.
for the
Saw that.
library on your system, which is good. There's some other scanning tools. HD Moore's Rumble, they've put out an update that
Mm-hmm.
will look for platforms that may be running this. And look, if you've got unlimited budget, Tom and I both, we work for companies that were willing to take unlimited budget from you. But really, this is not something. The solution to this, contrary to what all of the vendor email you're getting is telling you right now, the solution is not go pay somebody to test your entire organization. The testing of your organization is something you can do. You can find this, right? With permission, right? Make sure it's within your job description. You start scanning a network you're not allowed to scan, that's different. But yeah, this one, I am amazed at the amount of spam I've gotten. What was it? Checkpoint referred to this as a cyber pandemic.
Just
That
stop.
that's a marketing person that needs to be punched in the throat.
Yeah. Just stop, please. Yeah, the vendor spam is definitely out of control. Everybody says they have a solution, use our product, use our blinky light box, the traditional thing. I mean, we saw this with Shell Shock. We saw this with Code Red. I mean, all the major vulnerabilities that have come
Every
out
time.
over the years. And this is the same cycle that we
Yeah,
see. So,
every single time. I like to find vendors. I'm biased. I'm one of them.
yeah.
I'm assuming you guys are as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Yeah.
we're willing to talk to you about it. We're willing to help you, point you in the right direction. But there's no reason to sign an SOW with us to fix or detect this problem. Unless you're doing a normal pen test. If we're
Of
doing a
course.
normal pen test, right? Yeah,
Yeah, we're
we
going to
should
locate
find
that
this.
for you if we have a pen test that we're doing for our
Yeah,
clients. This is absolutely in scope
yeah,
for
yep.
us.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
we're
totally, and it's going to be in scope for a
and
long time.
enjoying the heck out of it as we find it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, we released we did a webinar. We did kind of a impromptu blog, just giving people information of
Yeah,
hey, what's the issue? How do you fix it? What are we seeing with some of our clients? And I think that's important that we continue to do that of spreading knowledge. And
yep.
there's so many tools out there too, really good scanning tools we've seen
Oh yeah.
that have been published. Like you said, Rob Fuller, others are releasing information. So yeah, we'll link some of those in our show notes here for people if you'd like to see those. Or but it is a rapidly developing situation. I mean, just like you said, with this new version already, and we've had research that has there's all kinds of things going on. This will continue for weeks
Well,
now, I'm sure.
oh yeah, and I'm sure that this is going to be just like all the rest of them. That once somebody said, because I'll guarantee you that Praetorian, nothing against them, they're great people. I am sure that they started looking at this Friday when it was announced, right? Like,
Oh, totally.
the coincidence of them having been testing Log4j the
Mm-hmm.
same week that something that I don't believe. And more and more people are going to do that. The minute a new patch comes out, somebody's gonna poke at it and prod it and see if they can break that patch. And so yeah, I mean that's what we do.
That's right. What does it mean to go off the grid? Well, for most of us that are constantly relying on our phones, tablets, and laptops, It means shutting them off and doing some other activity like enjoying nature or spending time with friends and family. Now, you're probably a lot like me and struggle with turning off or putting down that smartphone because we always feel the need to be constantly connected. Listen, it's hard to go off the grid, but the good news is that there are products that can help. So that's why I recommend using a silent Faraday bag, which can instantly block all wireless signals, quickly taking you off the grid and giving you back control of your wireless devices. Check out their full product line at slnt.com. And because you listen to this podcast, make sure you use discount code SHAREDSECURITY at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
You want your organization to be secure and compliant and to have a healthy culture. But your employees' lack of awareness makes you vulnerable to data theft, fraud, and compliance penalties. It's frustrating that the boring static training content that's being used today has failed to improve employees' ability to defend against cyber attacks. At ClickArmor, we know that without using gamification, it's extremely hard to get staff to understand how to avoid threats. Our gamified simulations and challenges have provided a 50% average improvement in thousands of employees' ability to spot phishing threats. Go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity to get your free gamified phishing assessment for up to 500 employees. You'll see quickly how gamified simulations can help your team be more resilient and compliant and help avoid costly ransomware and fraud incidents. Let ClickArmor help you go from being an underappreciated, stressed out fall guy to being an innovative leader who's the catalyst for greater productivity in your organization.
So moving on from Log4j, there was an interesting story about Apple AirTags that are being used by car thieves to track high-end vehicles. And we've mentioned Apple AirTags before on the show. They've had some issues in the past, especially around tracking. I think the one story we talked about was somebody was using it to track like in a domestic violence situation. Somebody's whereabouts and things like that. But what happens here is apparently thieves will secretly place this on a car, somewhere that they can stick it without being seen, probably like underneath the fender or something like that. And they will follow that person or track them because what's unique about the Apple AirTags is it uses other iPhones in its proximity to continue to send that location data back to Apple and then back to your phone. So they're finding out where these people live. And then, at night they're going and stealing their cars without their knowledge. So interesting stuff. What do you think, Kevin?
I think it's BS. I think this is the exact same announcement that we get the week of Halloween from every police department around the country or around the world. Watch for, fully loaded weapons stuffed into Kit Kat bars. So reading the article, we have a single police department that is
just
investigating 5 incidents where an Apple iTag was attached to a car. And that's all the detail they've released. So the police department, which I think this is ironic, is recommending that you regularly search your car for tracking devices. I'm sure all of the drug dealers that police departments have been tracking for years will find the humor in that as much as I do. They haven't released that cars were actually stolen. They haven't released why the tracking device is being used in reference to stealing the car. Because in my opinion, again, I'm not a police officer. I'm not, right? But if I want to steal a car, I don't need to track it. If I can walk up to it and attach an AirTag to it, I don't need to track where it is. I just steal it then.
Right.
This makes zero sense to me that now, don't get me wrong. If I am a thief that wants man, that's a really expensive looking car, and I saw them put a whole bunch of high end jewelry in it because of a shopping spree, and I want to know where they live so I can do a burglary.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that I could maybe right, but this whole idea that man, high-end car thieves are attaching AirTags to cars are exactly the same thing in my opinion as every police department saying, watch your candy because people are giving out edibles. Nobody is giving out edibles on Halloween, right? Nobody is buying an AirTag and attaching it to a car they want to steal so that they could find it at some future, in my opinion, and prove me wrong, right? Like, show me the case where some car thief has gotten caught doing exactly this, because none of it makes any sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, I'm not that smart. I'm not a police officer. I think this is some police department in Canada was feeling lonely on their social media page.
Canada.
And
Well, it is true. That actually it does take place in Canada. So
yes, it is Canadian Police Department. And I want to be very clear that really is no reference to my calling BS on this. Like, they could be the Ukrainian police for all I care. No, this isn't happening. This is not happening the way they're saying it. Something is happening. I'm cool with
something
that,
is
right.
still a
But
story.
like right off the bat, I could see stalkers doing it. Right.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh yeah.
I'm a psychopath. Look, I've watched way too many episodes of Criminal Minds. I can totally see the sociopaths seeing some woman that they're attracted to.
Yep.
Tagging them with an AirTag and then following them home. I believe that I could see happening,
and that has happened. Yeah,
and it has happened. But this idea that they're doing it so they can steal the car, BS. Sorry, I just don't buy it. I expect the next Canadian Lonely Police Department social media post to be, because that's what dead serious. This is, our social media needs a boost. Let's write some stupid thing that people will be like, oh my gosh. And I think the next post will be that they're inserting AirTags into candy for Halloween so they know where the little kids go so they can kidnap them. Right? Like, that is, they've got LSD edible AirTags that they are injecting into candy so they can steal cars. That that is my 2022
LSD
prediction.
injected. Oh, awesome! We can talk more about that in our show next week, which will be our end of the year show on 2022 predictions. So, yes, I'm all about drug infused AirTags.
Yeah, drug infused AirTags. They're not infused. They're actually taking the LSD and solidifying it.
Got it. Okay.
I don't know if LSD is actually solid normally, but I don't know. And they're solidifying it in the shape of an AirTag, and then somehow getting Apple's slave workers in China to inject the chips into the LSD AirTag, so it looks like the same thing. I don't know. I don't know.
This story has not gone off the rails at all.
At all.
At all.
Have you seen the meme that goes around? This is what I thought of when this came up, when this story was in the list. Have you seen the meme where somebody has taken a Glock 17 and then broken like a Three Musketeer bar around it? And it says, look what I found in my kid's candy. That's what this is. But all seriousness, I do actually think this type of tracking is a concern for people. I think that, right, like, if you let's break it down, right? If you're a high risk person, check your damn car regularly, right? Like, and I don't mean it because they're afraid of them stealing your car. I'm afraid of them stealing you, right? Like, I can totally see. I don't know how to say this without being very inappropriate sounding, and I'm not trying to be inappropriate, but I know growing up, there have been plenty of times in my life where I have been somewhere and seen somebody and been attracted to them, right? Like, oh man, she's beautiful. I wish I could get to know her.
You're saying that you're human.
Right. And so I can understand, because if I take that experience that I have had plenty of times in my life and then associate it with all the Criminal Minds episodes that I've watched, because again, watched way too many episodes of Criminal Minds. The writers for Criminal Minds need to be checked out because there is something wrong with them. But I could totally see some sociopath taking that, oh man, she's attractive, to and Apple provided me the best way to track her in her entire life. That's the next, right? That's the next sociopathic step. It is not a step I've ever taken. It's not a step I ever will take, but
thank you for clarifying that.
I'm just making it clear, right?
So yeah. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on from that one, and let's finish up here with an FBI document, which is horribly yellow, by the way. Like
it is very, very yellow.
It's like the worst photocopy of a document I think I've ever seen in my life, which we'll link in the show notes.
It is pretty bad.
It's really bad.
I think it was injected into a candy bar and given to a kid on Halloween.
Or like a giant yellow highlighter just covered the whole thing. But this document is something that internal at the FBI, I think it's part of their training program for agents or something like that. It shows what data can be obtained from encrypted messaging apps. And to me, I thought it was a little bit eye-opening. I'm not surprised by anything that's listed there because, there are certain things you may not be able to get the messages themselves, but there are things like metadata and other things that can be taken from these apps if there's under a subpoena or if the FBI happens to get a device. I think it's interesting to see what are those things that can be retrieved, and maybe a little bit eye-opening because I think we have this, we tell in the security community, at least, is like, oh, you need to be using Signal or you need to be using this app because it is secure. But there still are things that app can give away that law enforcement could use in an investigation.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Looking through this, I'm happy that I use Signal.
I agree.
Right? Sure. I mean, I look at, don't get me wrong, I cannot think of anything I've sent across Signal that I would actually be concerned about law enforcement getting, right? But I'm a very firm believer that I don't need to be doing something wrong to want privacy, right? But yeah, I agree completely. I think this is eye-opening for me, who has known they're able to get lots of this stuff already. It still was, I didn't know some of the things that they could get.
Same.
And for the people that I know that either don't believe this is possible, like they've bought into this idea that they have to use end-to-end encryption and they don't want to do anything. That they want to use these because it's completely private, but they're not. Like like understand what is possible. I also think for the people who are being abused, domestic abuse, domestic violence, stalking, stuff like that, understanding what the police could actually find if they got somebody. So obviously, if you go to the police with your phone, you can show them the messages in your stuff. But I think it's important for people to know who are in problem situations, what can happen, what could go. I do find it funny. The article goes through all this stuff, and then it says, of note, the table above does not include details about Keybase, a recent end-to-end encrypted service that's been getting a possibility. I do find it funny that that's the only recent end-to-end encryption thing that they think is of note that it's not said. But my favorite part of this is it's a recent end-to-end encrypted E2EE service that has been gaining popularity. The service was acquired by video conferencing software maker Zoom in May 2020, which means, as we all know, it will no longer be end-to-end encrypted. But
ouch.
That may not be true. So
I think they have it in encryption now. I think they did finally. It's real too. It's not a fake end-to-end.
Yeah, I will believe that in a year when they haven't been caught not encrypting it again. My issue with Zoom, and I've said this before, my issue with Zoom is not that they had places where it was unencrypted, not that they had places where the staff had access to the decryption keys. My issue is that they've repeatedly lied about it. And the first time you lie about it, I'll buy the excuse it was a mistake. Oh man, we didn't realize that's what you meant, or we didn't understand the question, or we didn't know. But what is it now? The fifth time you've been caught lying about something, and I may be exaggerating, but I don't believe them. We have a company policy. We don't use Zoom.
Do you know we interviewed the founder of Keybase like a couple of years ago on this podcast. You weren't. It was just me interviewing him.
Yeah,
but,
I do remember that.
Yeah, it was a good conversation too. I actually might link that in the show notes. This is before the Zoom thing and everything. They were a lot smaller, but
and I've heard good things about Keybase. I'm joking about the
Keybase is great.
Yeah, I've never used it, but I've heard good things about it.
Yep. Awesome.
So, cool.
All right. Good topics this week. And the other thing I'll finish up with is just a shout out to, all the blue teamers this week that have been busting their butt for their organizations, getting the Log4j vulnerability patched and remediated or mitigated. I mean, it's very stressful, especially over a weekend when, your boss is going to call you and say, hey, we need this fixed right now. It's a critical issue. And I just remember those days when I was, in IT and in security working in a big enterprise, the late nights and phone calls in the middle of the night to fix or patch something. So I just wanted to shout out to them that definitely everyone is thinking about them. And especially getting closer to the holidays too. It's a stressful time anyway. So just wanted to give them a call out. So.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is one of those times where I am thankful that I do not have an on-call rotation that I am responsible for. Anymore.
It's a tough job.
It's good work.
All right.
Awesome.
So with that, I think we'll end the show for this week. But next week, definitely check out. This is our famous year-end predictions. So we'll talk about the year that was, and then we'll talk about what we think will happen next year. And I may have a listing of things that we have predicted over the years, and then I think it'll be fun to talk about what happened and what didn't, what stayed the same, and were we completely right or completely wrong?
I like it. We were probably completely wrong.
I'm not going to comment on that yet.
Oh, man.
So, awesome. So stay tuned for that. But thank you, Kevin, for being on the show again this week. And thanks to all of our listeners. And we'll talk to you all next time. That's all for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for all previous episodes and to sign up for our email newsletter. Looking for Shared Security merch? Be sure to check out our online store at store.sharedsecurity.net. Don't forget, you can always find us on Twitter at SharedSec, and please hit that like and subscribe button below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.